Welcome back to the channel. This is the Action Figure Grader. Thanks to those of you that watch the channel. Really appreciate the support. Make sure to leave me a like on this video if you enjoy my content, as it does help out with the stupid YouTube algorithms. We got a pretty nice assortment here of loose graded, loose complete, oddball items like this unpainted Lily Letty Overstock Emperor, a first shot prototype cloud car pilot. I really wanted that one. That one was really nice. But anyway, a pretty decent assortment here of different items that sold on eBay. Gives you an idea of prices for those of you out there looking. And again, I really appreciate those of you that watch my videos. So let's take a look. I think we're kind of starting off with some loose graded from UKG. We've got a UKG 90% Dianoga Trash Monster. This one sold in an auction for 147 pounds, which is about $200 US. And that's about right. It's pretty easy to find the Dianoga Trash Monster in high grade. UKG 90s, AFA 85s and 90s. So you don't need to overpay for it. 200 to 250 will get you a very nice example that's already been graded by one of the grading companies. But that one did sell in an auction for about 200 bones. Next up, I've got some mail-away items. I believe I had these in a what to buy video, and they sold very quickly. I think one of my Patreon supporters might have bought this one, and I thought this was a good deal. This is the Survival Kit mail-away. It's a surprisingly expensive mail-away item. It's just really hard to find it 100% complete and in really good shape. And this one looked to be in very clean shape. It was not graded, but it was in a sliding acrylic case. And you can see there it's got all the paperwork, the little flyer that explains how to use the training harness and the Hoff backpack, and the grappling hook, the face mask, and lots of different weapons. It's a very odd item, but it's a really cool way to accessorize your vintage toys back in the day. And that one sold for $275. High-grade examples, I've seen them go for $350 to $400 all day long. So I thought that was a really good deal. Congrats, whoever picked that one up. And then this one sold at auction from the same seller. This was the Forlom mail-away, 100% complete. That one sold for $137.50. That's really come back down in price. It used to be like $250 to $350, even $350 all day long for an AFA 85. And I don't think you got to pay that nowadays. This was one that really is not that expensive relative to what it used to be. And this one sold in an auction, again, ungraded, but with a sliding acrylic case for $137.50. I thought that was a very good deal for the Forlom mail-away. That's not one I ever managed to track down. I had the Toll Toys Australian version, but that one comes with a blank box. Well, no, not a blank box, but it has a Australian New Zealand address on the box, but it did not come with the catalog. But the baggie type, I believe, is the same. It's a Hong Kong baggie. This one did not have the Made in Hong Kong written on the baggie, so it might be a different baggie for the US version. I'm not sure. But the one I had, I think, had a Made in Hong Kong on there. But this one did sell again for $137.50. Pretty good deal. This was the Tauntaun that I know I had in a what to buy video at some point. This one was interesting. So it mentions here that it has a 1979 foot stamp, but a 1980 Hong Kong stamp as well. So I'm not sure about that. I don't know enough about the Tauntauns to know whether that's common or if that's, kind of a weird oddity. But that's the first time I've ever seen a 1970s date associated with the Tauntaun, since obviously the ESB items really came out in 1980 and 81. This was the solid belly, though, which is the first, the closed belly, which is the first iteration of the Tauntaun. But anyway, I just thought that was interesting that it did have a 1979 foot stamp on there. And maybe in the comments, as you're leaving me a like, if that's common for all of the closed belly Tauntauns, I'd be curious to know that. But this one was loose graded UKG 85%, really cool display. It was listed for 375 pounds, which was $500. The best offer accepted on that was 300 pounds, which is $400 US. So pretty decent deal for a high grade Tauntaun with no cracks in the reins and the split. Usually those reins can split very easily over time, but that was a very nice example. Next up was a UKG 90% yak face, and this is kind of the start of some last 17 figures that sold recently. UKG 90%, very high grade, gold level from UKG. And that one sold for 420 pounds in an auction, which is 559 US dollars. Yak Face has definitely come back down in price. I'm a little surprised that this one did not go for more money, given that it was a 90%. But that's kind of the way it is. You can never predict. And this seller also did not allow for shipping to the U.S. And I hate to pick on him again, but U.S. buyers are paying more for Yak Face than you guys over in the U.K. are. Here in the U.S., for whatever reason, it's a lot more expensive to get a Yak Face, even after accounting for the currency conversion, because an AFA 85, typically over here anyway, it's $800 to $850 minimum. But for a UKG 90 to go for 559 US dollars, that's a really good deal there. Next up, a Monomon. This one was an AFA 90 archival case. And again, same seller. An AFA 90, a Monomon over here would go for at least $600. At least. Archival case, brand new case style. Someone would pay up big time for that. You can see there the label AFA 90 grade. So, this one was over in the UK and sold in an auction for 406 US dollars. That's what people will pay all day long over here for just an AFA 85. And typically, I'm not saying it's always the case, but usually going from an AFA 85 to a 90 grade for certain figures, you usually double the price. And, an AFA 85 is probably in that ballpark of $400. I'm not saying it would go for $800, but it could in an auction. You never know if somebody is only an AFA 90 collector and, having that archival case. So, I think it probably wouldn't in an auction, but maybe in a buy it now situation, if the seller was patient, they might get $800 for it. So that one went way too low, in my opinion, relative to fair market value, at least over here. Now, here was an ungraded example that sold for $282.55. It was not perfect. It had some scuffing on the arm there. You can see on the hand, it's got some discoloration and things like that. So this is probably at best an 80 grade, an 80 at best. That's my guess. But that one sold, again, ungraded for $282.55 and was probably in about a 75 plus or an 80 grade condition for a Monomon. Here was an EV99, again, ungraded. That one sold for $328. But, just in general, I guess what I'm trying to get at is that last 17 figures have really come down in price. It's been pretty surprising over the last 6 to 9 months. It's been subtle, but it's been slowly working their way down. I don't know if you remember, if you watch my channel for a while, there were times where last 17 figures, graded, ungraded, it didn't matter. They just kept going for bigger and bigger prices, especially like Luke Stormtrooper and Yak Face. At one point, there was an AFA 90 Yak Face that sold for almost $2,000. I'm talking about a loose graded one. So it's just really surprising and shocking at how prices have come back down to earth. So it's just a lesson in patience, and it's also just be careful. Don't overpay right now in a down market environment. And it's not super down, but it's definitely lower than where we were a year ago. And just be patient on price, on last 17 especially. This Luke Stormtrooper, speaking of him, this one was not perfect. You can see there that he had some color rub on the hair and the limb color differences. He's got some modeling on the wrist gauntlet there. So this is probably at best a 75 grade. That would be what I would give it personally. At best, it might even be like a 70, just depending on, this is one of those figures that's graded very harshly. And I'm not saying you got to grade this. I'm just giving you an idea of condition. But this one sold for $295. There were, times again where it didn't matter almost what the condition was for Luke Stormtroopers. They were going for insane numbers, but they've come back down for kind of budget friendly examples. And this is one I would consider to be on the budget friendly side, mainly because of the hair, but also because of the color rub or the discoloration to the arms and legs. But $295, very fair deal for a loose complete one with the correct blaster. This was an interesting one as well. So this one was a double telescoping Luke, but it looks like, it looked to be in pretty good condition. Obviously some pink color to the arms and legs on the Luke, double telescoping Luke. And that's really what drove the price on this, but it was complete with the box, all the paperwork, and then the figures were not in the baggies. So this is kind of a display piece. You would get a sliding acrylic case from Ian's Displays and just display it like you would an early bird mail away kit that's been graded. And very, very cool item, but really the big driver on this is the tray being in good shape, the box being in very good shape, all the paperwork's in great shape, and then the double telescoping Luke, which was in about a 75 grade condition. So $34.19 in an auction. This one was sold by Toy Scout, a seller that we talk about all the time. It's a shame it's got the pink hue to the Luke, because otherwise it was in pretty good shape. You can see there it's got the 2-line Hong Kong, which is the correct early version of the Luke Farm Boy date stamp for the double telescoping saber. Some select 3-line Hong Kongs also are usable for the double telescoping Luke, but really it's for the early bird kit, it's the 2-line, the 2-line Hong Kong. So this one is a beauty. $34.19, great display piece. Another one I had in the what to buy video was this Kenner Canada Empire Strikes Back packaging for the Sandcrawler. It was a working condition, 100% complete with unused sticker sheet. The box unfortunately did have a lot of wear to it, but it was the harder to find ESB box, and it was also the French-Canadian Empire Strikes Back version. So you can see there, La guerre des étoiles, l'Empire contre-attaque. Counterattack? Look, I'm just joking around here, but there was no counterattack by the French during World War II, okay? They laid down their arms very quickly and waved the white flag. I'm just kidding, French people that are watching, just kidding. I'm not picking on you, just kidding. But there was no counterattack, all right? Cultural attack. Anyway, this... I'm such an idiot. But this was a very rare item. All right, in all seriousness, this is a very, very, very rare item. It's rare for any Empire Strikes Back Sandcrawler, but this one being the French-Canadian box, very, very cool item, unused sticker sheet. And that one sold at an auction for $1,725. Very, very cool. This one was up in Quebec, Canada. $1,725 on that one. So I actually think that's a very fair price. I mean, I've seen some just Star Wars radio-controlled Sandcrawlers that were loose complete, with the box, go for about that price, $1,600 to $1,800. So I'm a little surprised that one actually went that low. I was kind of expecting, honestly, $2,000-ish for that one. So I thought that was a very good deal, though. Next up, here is that first shot prototype. This was sold by Villains, who has some really serious droids items at auction or in Buy It Now that we'll cover in another video. I'm going to do a devoted video to just his droids items that are at auction as of the making of this video right now. I'm sure I'll do a what to buy video, include some of those that are at auction right now. But this one, this is where it's at. This is one of my favorite characters from the Empire Strikes Back line, if not overall. But this was an archival case, first shot prototype, AFA 75 plus cloud car pilot, and it sold one bid for $4,000. And I don't know what the going rate is on these, but in general, first shot prototypes from the Empire Strikes Back line do go for big boy money. This one was just graded by Tom Derby over at AFA with the certificate of authenticity. This was graded on April 13th of 2024. But this is a very rare item, and this is one I always kind of wanted, because I love the Cloud Car Pilot. It's just tough to find first shots for Empire Strikes Back figures, but that one did sell for $4,000 in an auction. Absolutely awesome. I would have loved to have had that, and that's kind of the right grade for me, because usually first shot prototypes from the ESB line in high grade, like AFA 85, they go for huge money, huge money. We just talked about the IG 88s that sold at auction in the last Hakes auction, and they went for huge money as well. So they're like 5, 10, you know, the one, the IG-88 with, that was unpainted with the alternate, you know, plastic colors. That one, I think it went for over $10,000. And then they also had one that was an IG-88 that had no foot pegs, that was painted. Or, you know, I'm sorry, it was unpainted, but it had no foot pegs. And that one also went for really big money. I don't remember the final numbers on those, but they were big. But this is one that was really, really cool and, you know, just really tough to find. So $4,000 on that. Speaking of unpainted, this is one that I sent out to my Patreon supporters, and I know one of them, my buddy Jameson, bid on this, but he did not win. This was an overstock Lily Letty Emperor. Very, very cool. That one sold for $280, and a good example of an overstock figure from the Lily Letty line. They just go for big money, and $280 was not a bad deal. I thought that was pretty fair for what that was. Next up, we've got some items from Brown's 8888. Always has very high grade items at auction. This one was an AFA 85 lettered saber Darth Vader, $238.50. I thought that was a very good deal for an AFA 85 with letter on the saber hilt. And interestingly, AFA has started labeling what letter the saber is. I had not seen that before. This is the first time I've ever noticed that. Usually they just put letter on saber hilt and that's it. But now they started labeling it in parentheses. So this one had the R on the label there. So I'm glad that they do that, because there are crazy people out there that try to get every single letter on saber hilt for Vader, or, you know, maybe for Kenobi, things like that. So I've seen it. I know Jeff Jacobs has a loose graded collection. He's got every single letter on saber hilt for Darth Vader. It's like 70 different figures. He had a YouTube short, or not a YouTube, but a Facebook video that he did, and it showed all of them laid out together. It was as ridiculous as it sounds. It was like 70 of them. It was crazy. But this one, it's pretty cool to see that AFA started doing that. CAS and UKG, I think, have always done that, but AFA was the last holdout, and now they started doing it, so that was cool. $238.50 on that one. And then we had a Ben Kenobi. This was a dark gray hair, no COO, that was graded AFA 85 plus. And again, thank you to Trilogy Hunter 77. He bid on this one because I had it in a what to buy video, and he forgot to use the eBay affiliate link, so he sent me a YouTube super. So thank you again, Trilogy Hunter, for doing that. That was very kind. AFA 85 plus, no COO, dark gray hair. That one sold for $528. Big number, but it was also an 85 plus grade. So beautiful figure there. Next up was an AFA 85 dark brown stitch, no COO Jawa. That one sold for $202.49. $202.49 on that one. Next up was an AFA 85 Bosk. This is just a standard olive head. This one had the flat paint though, and that one sold for $171.38. Very good deal there. That one was a beautiful figure. You can see how clean the white is on that one. I mean, that one was pretty perfect. I'm shocked it only got an 85. Let's take a look at the back. Usually it's because of the white paint on this one. You can see some light scuffs on the back there. So there it is. That's why it got the 85. But man, that was a very nice looking figure that was only graded 85, but it looked nicer to me than an 85. So a great deal there at $171. And then he also had straight black eyes, Imperial Commander, pink face. There's so many different variations for the Hong Kong Imperial Commander. I can't keep up with them. There's like curved eyes, pink face, pale face, all kinds of different variations. That one sold for $137.50. This was another one I sent out to my Patreon supporters, and one of y'all bought this one. I don't know who it was, but thank you for whoever used the affiliate link. This was a Rebo band, 100% complete, and that's about as good as it gets for a standard non-Lily Letty version of the Max Rebo. The limbs on that one, there were discolored, but it was very slight. Usually they discolor quite a bit more than that, but this was a very nice example and sold for $199. I thought that was a great deal for a loose, complete Max Rebo band and size Snoodles. Next up, this was a very rare 4-pack that did finally sell. This was a CAS 85 green label This one is the JCPenney Return of the Jedi 4-pack. I believe that there was one of these that sold recently at Hakes as well. But it's got all 3 heroes and then Darth Vader. It's got the Farm Boy Luke, the first 12 Han Solo Smuggler, and then the Princess Leia Organa, and then obviously the Darth Vader. But very cool 4-pack that came out during the Return of the Jedi line from JCPenney, and that one did sell for $2,400. But I don't know why. There's something about that 4-pack that is really nice, because it's got all first 12 figures, but it came out during the Return of the Jedi line. So I thought that was awesome. And again, sold for $2,400. And then we got 2 different Millennium Falcons. First being the die-cast Millennium Falcon. It was ungraded, but still factory sealed. That one sold for $272.77. It included the sliding acrylic case. It was obviously had heavy scuffing to it, but very cool item. And then this is the micro collection of the Millennium Falcon. This one was graded AFA 80 and obviously went for big money. This one, the X-Wing and the TIE Fighter, are some of the most rare for the micro collection. And, this being factory sealed, AFA 80, it sold for huge money at auction, which was $1,166. So big number on that one, but it should be, given that it's a high grade example and factory sealed. So I hope that you enjoyed this look at kind of a different lines, all kinds of different mishmash of items. I really appreciate, again, those that watch the channel. Don't forget to leave me a like if you did enjoy my content. Thank you as always for watching, and I'll be back soon.